Revealed, the incredible transformation of a black beggar to a millionaire after losing his son. David wandered the streets of Chicago, clothes tattered, a shadow of the man he once was. Memories of laughter danced in his mind, memories of his late son, Marcus, his heart, his pride, his everything. "You're gonna own the world one day, Dad," Marcus would say. But that was before tragedy knocked, stealing Marcus and turning David's dreams to dust. Every day, as he roamed the vibrant yet gritty inner city, the resilience of the community was palpable. The smell from food carts mixed with the sound of laughter and music created an odd beauty. Yet, it felt misplaced against David's fading heart. Street corners were full of people, struggling just like him, fighting against the tide of despair. In this chaos, he found anchorage among the other homeless souls. He found wisdom in Gladys, an elderly woman who spoke in metaphors about storms and rainbows, and hope in Malik, a young father fighting to provide for his kids, despite the weight pressing down like a heavy fog. One fateful evening, in a community shelter that clung to warmth against the bitter cold, destiny crossed David's path. He met Tom. The local veteran, haunted by his battle scars, shared stories that fluttered between hope and despair. It ignited something within David, a spark he thought long extinguished. "Life is still worth fighting for," Tom said one night, eyes glistening with unshed memories. David couldn't help but think of Marcus, of the dreams he had for them. Could he reclaim the vision they once shared? Just as he began to entertain the idea, catastrophe struck. While waiting for the shelter doors to open, he saw it happen, a robbery in broad daylight. Panic ensued, but instinct kicked in. David stepped forward, heart pounding, adrenaline surging through him like a wild storm. With a courage born of desperation and unwavering integrity, he intervened, blocking the assailant just long enough for help to arrive. The world around him watched, breath caught in collective awe. This moment, his moment, went viral, flooding screens with his brave stand. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Suddenly, food began pouring into the shelter, comfort and warmth flowing like a river through a parched land. David tasted recognition, relief washing over him like a warm blanket. But deep down, the void left by Marcus remained. External validation wouldn't fill that space. Fueled by a fierce spirit reborn, David started a humble catering business using Marcus's favorite recipes, each dish infused with their cherished memories. It was a labor of love, a tribute that echoed through each flavor. Slowly, his life began to shift once more. Hope grew like wildflowers in the cracks of concrete, yet, as his world brightened, the shadows of estrangement lurked. The pain he had experienced left scars, and the chance to reconnect with family began to stir dormant emotions. Could he face those who had distanced themselves when he needed them most? Standing at the doorway of his past, David felt the weight of every choice pull on him. Was he ready to bridge that chasm? The question lingered, an itch on his spirit, leaving him on the edge of a defining moment. David took a deep breath, standing at the intersection of his past and future. Memories flooded back, laughter at family gatherings, shared holidays, the simple joy of dinner with his loved ones. But with those memories also came the sting of abandonment. He used to call them every week, but silence had stretched between them like an insurmountable chasm. Did they even remember him? As he pondered, the sound of lively chatter caught his attention. A small crowd had gathered in the park, where a local musician strummed a guitar, weaving a tapestry of notes that filled the air with warmth. It was a bright spot in his world, a reminder that life carried on. Some people danced, carefree, lost in the rhythm. They seemed unaware of the hardships surrounding them, lost in laughter and joy. David's heart stirred. He had been so wrapped up in his own loss that he forgot to embrace the beauty of life. Could he channel that joy into something more? Longing crept in, weaving through his thoughts. What if he reached out to his family, opened the door to forgiveness? The thought was daunting, yet it ignited a flicker of hope. With renewed courage, he decided to give it a shot. He pulled out his worn phone, its cracked screen a testament to its struggles, and hesitated before tapping on his sister's number. Would she pick up? Would she even want to talk to him? The phone rang. Each beep felt like a small eternity. Finally, she answered. Hello. Her voice was cautious, but it was a start. Hey, it's me, David. A long pause stretched out like the silence just before a storm. David? She finally whispered, disbelief lacing her tone. Yeah. I am not sure where to start, but I wanted to reach out. I miss you all. As they talked, the walls of past misunderstandings began to crumble. Each word was a brush against the canvas of their strained relationship. He could feel the weight of years between them, but also the yearning to reconnect, to make things right. Bit by bit, the pieces of reconciliation began to fit together. Before he ended the call, she promised to meet him the next day. Hope burst within him, blooming anew. He thought of Marcus, of how proud his son would be. This was the first step toward healing, toward reclaiming not only his family but also a piece of himself. Later that evening, David returned to his modest kitchen, the heart of his catering business. The aroma of home-cooked meals enveloped him, a cocktail of spices and memories. Cooking had become his therapy. As he prepared a special dish, he imagined sharing it with his family once more. Laughter around the table, stories shared, love rekindled. He could almost see it, but there was still a task ahead. As excitement overtook him, he thought of the taste of fear that lingered at the back of his throat. What if they didn't want to mend what had been broken? As night settled, the stars twinkled in the Chicago sky, whispers of unanswered questions danced in the air. With anticipation hanging thick, David felt the fragile thread of hope woven in his heart. The response from his sister could change everything, but would it lead to closure or more heartache? The thought clung to him like a shadow, urging the next moment to unfold. And all he could do was wait. What awaited him tomorrow held the potential for either joy or despair, one conversation standing between him and a chance to rewrite his story. David woke the next morning with a mixture of hope and nerves fluttering in his chest. The sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating his cluttered countertops, remnants of last night's meal prep. It was peaceful, a quiet contrast to the storm brewing inside him. He made himself a strong cup of coffee, hoping the warmth would steady his hands, allow him to center his thoughts. As he waited for his sister, he thought back on their childhood, how they used to play in the backyard, his laughter mingling with hers as they danced under the summer sun. Would it still feel the same? Or had the years stretched their bond too thin? He glanced at his phone, hoping for an early text or call. Nothing. Impatience gnawed at him, so he set to work placing the special dish into a portable container, determination guiding his every movement. It was a recipe their mother had often made for family gatherings, a stirring homage to their shared past. With every chop of herbs and every sprinkle of spices, David felt like he was piecing together a bridge across the chasm of lost time. The colorful veggies brightened his mood, and he imagined sharing this meal, laughter bubbling over as they remembered old stories while making new ones. When the clock struck 11, panic set in. What if she changed her mind? David bit down on his lip, willing himself to breathe through the anxiety. He took a moment to catch his breath, reminding himself that waiting was the hardest part. Deep down, he wanted this, he needed this. The desire to reconnect pulled at him, darker and more urgent than ever. Just as he was about to take another anxious sip of coffee, his phone buzzed, and his heart leaped. He slammed it down, nearly choking on the last of his drink. It was her. The message read, "I'm here." Breathing out a long sigh, relief flooded through him. It also carried the tension of all that was to come. David stepped outside, the cool air revitalizing him. He spotted her car, the familiar rust-dusted red Toyota he remembered from their teenage years. She stepped out, hesitating for a moment before advancing toward him. Her expression mirrored his, a cautious mixture of hope and vulnerability. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," he echoed, and the two stood awkwardly, feeling the weight of unspoken words pile between them. The moment felt electrified, charged with everything they hadn't said over the years. "I brought something," he said, holding up the container like a peace offering. Her eyes flickered, and for a second, he thought he saw a spark of recognition of the good times. "Wow, Mom's recipe?" she asked, a smile breaking across her face. "You still remember?" He nodded, feeling a warmth spread through him. "I thought it might be a good start." As she took the container, their fingers brushed, a spark ignited that cracked through the tension. Before they could say more, she took a deep breath. "I didn't know if you'd reach out again, or if we'd just stay apart." David's heart sank. "I thought about it every day," he admitted, the truth spilling out like a broken dam. "I was afraid." Hesitation hung in the air, but he could see her resolve building. "What if we don't let the past choose our path anymore?" Her words hit him, landing deep. Hope pulsed within him, igniting a fire he thought had dulled. They had the chance to redefine their story. "Let us talk," he asked, a question perched on the edge of possibilities. "Yeah," she replied, her eyes brightening. "I'd like that." They stepped away from the weight of yesterday and walked toward a future muddled but promising, the warmth of past memories joining them in spirit. As they began to talk, David knew this was just the beginning. But there was something heavier lurking below the surface, a secret she had kept from him. What was she hiding? As they settled beneath the sun, the winds of change began to swirl, hinting at the truths yet to surface. David took a deep breath, feeling the sun bathe them both in a warm glow. They found a comfortable spot on the porch, the familiar creaks of the wood bringing back memories of lazy summer afternoons. She sat across from him, the tension still palpable, but the smile still lingered on her face. "Can I serve you?" he asked, motioning to the container. "Please," she said, her eyes sparkling with something that resembled excitement, mixed with caution. David opened the lid and the rich aroma wafted up memories of family dinners, laughter, fleeting moments of joy. He spooned some onto her plate, watching as she took the first bite. "Wow, you nailed it!" she exclaimed, her eyes widening in surprise. "Just like Mom used to make." The laughter that followed felt as if they were weaving back together the strands of their broken past, inch by inch, delicious bite by delicious bite. He shared stories about the chaos of the last family reunion, the biscuits that flopped, and how he almost set the grill on fire. She added her own tales, mostly light-hearted but tinged with a hint of sorrow. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble under the weight of shared laughter and memories. He learned about her job at the local community center, how she had bonded with kids who reminded her of them when they were young. But as she spoke, there was something in her eyes that flickered, a spark that dimmed whenever she mentioned her relationship status or her late nights at work. "Things have changed so much," she said suddenly, her voice dropping an octave, pulling him into a more serious discourse. "I won't lie, this has been really hard. Since you know everything." The air shifted, a cloud drifting over the sun. David nodded, sensing the change in her tone. "It hasn't been easy for any of us, losing Mom," and then he hesitated, fumbling with words. "And then losing touch." Her gaze dropped momentarily to her plate, and he could see the weight of unexpressed sorrow resting heavy on her. "You were never the problem. I was. I just lost my way." "Tell me," he urged gently, wanting to understand. "What happened?" She inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "It's not just that. I've had my own struggles, David. Things I never talked about. Things that made me turn away." "What do you mean?" He pressed further, heart racing. Fear gripped him. What could possibly be so terrible that it had kept her silent for years? As shadows passed over her face, she finally met his eyes, vulnerability etched in her expression. "I didn't just lose Mom, I lost my child." The statement came like a punch to the gut, leaving David breathless. For a moment, the world around them faded. He felt a deep sense of grief for her, for the pain that had clearly taken hold of her life. I had a little boy, and her voice trembled, breaking at the edges. I wasn't there when it mattered. I can't explain why, but I couldn't face the world after that. It felt easier to shut everyone out. David's heart ached for her, for all that she had carried in silence. You shouldn't have had to go through that alone. I know, she whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. But now, I want to find my way back. I want to be part of a family again. Before he could respond, David noticed the distant rumble of thunder, the sky darkening unexpectedly. It felt ominous, as if the universe had shifted, responding to their revelation with a storm brewing just outside. Let us not let this rain on our reunion, okay? We can work through things, he offered, trying to keep a hopeful edge to their conversation. As she nodded, a bolt of lightning flashed, momentarily illuminating both their faces, drawing the past and the present together. But the storm was only beginning. He could sense uncharted depths still waiting for exploration, and the shadows of fear and hurt lingered just beneath the surface. Have you ever truly forgiven yourself? He asked suddenly, the question hanging between them like a challenge. She paused, her expression unreadable as the first raindrops began to fall. Maybe it starts now, she finally responded, but there was uncertainty in her voice and acknowledgement of the long journey still ahead. The rain began to pour, soaking everything around them, but in that storm, David felt the stirring of something bright. Hope intertwined with the continuing shadows, and they were both left wondering, could they really move forward together, or were they doomed to be haunted by the past forever? As the rain poured down, vivid droplets mixed with the tension hanging between them. It pounded against the wooden porch, creating a rhythm that echoed the uncertain beats of their hearts. David leaned forward, trying to gauge her reaction, but her face remained a canvas of mixed emotions. Shadows fought to dominate the glimmer of hope reflected in her eyes. They stayed there, two people drenched in a storm of their own making. The past and present collided in the chaos of falling rain, as if the heavens themselves were shedding tears for the pain they had both carried. David couldn't shake the feeling that this moment could pivot their relationship to somewhere new, or drown it entirely. Do you remember the treehouse? He asked, a lighting bolt of nostalgia illuminating the path back to simpler times. It felt like stepping onto a bridge that connected their carefree childhood to the weight of their current reality. Her lips curved into a small smile, and for the briefest of moments, the storm outside was forgotten. Of course. You were so determined to build it by yourself. I kept trying to help, and you just kept insisting, I can do it. Yeah, and then it almost collapsed. I should have taken your advice, he chuckled, nudging her gently as the laughter broke through the heaviness. Yet, laughter could only mask the truth they both needed to address. There's so much we lost along the way, she said, and the humor faded from her eyes. The pain. The regret. It's like carrying a weight that never goes away. Even when the sun shines, it still lingers in the background. David placed his hand lightly over hers, a comforting gesture that he hoped would cut through the fog of sorrow. Maybe that weight doesn't have to define you. You've been through hell, but you're here now. You want to reconnect. What if that's the beginning? She hesitated, her gaze wavering as the rain drummed on the roof, creating a reminder of time passing. But what if I can't get over this? What if it's not that easy? Hey, one step at a time, he reassured, squeezing her hand lightly. Forgiveness is messy. Remember my last birthday? The cake fell apart before we could even light the candles. But we laughed, because sometimes things don't go as planned. You just have to keep trying. Why do you still believe in me? She asked, her eyes searching his. After all these years, all that has happened. Because I don't want this to be the end of us. You're my sister. Family isn't just a word, it's a bond, even when it feels broken. And bonds can be repaired. His voice dipped, sincerity washing over their connection. We can weave new memories if we just let ourselves. A rumble of thunder rolled through the sky, as if nature itself was approving their conversation, and they both glanced towards the horizon, where lightning momentarily lit up the gloom. "I want to believe that," she whispered, hope flickering like the light in her eyes. Just then, without warning, the rain began to ease, the storm giving way to fresh air. David could feel the charged atmosphere shifting, a hint of possibility glimmering like the sun trying to break through dark clouds. "What if we started small?" he proposed, his mind racing with ideas. "Let us plan a family gathering. Just you and me, maybe invite a few old friends. We can try to rebuild." She bit her lip, weighing the thought. "I don't know if I'm ready for all that. But we'll take it slow," he assured, using his thumb to lightly brush against her knuckles. "Think of it as a practice run. And if it feels overwhelming, we'll pause, just like with the cake." The corners of her mouth lifted again, hinting at a possible smile. "You really are persistent, aren't you?" "I learn from the best," he teased, and warmth floated between them. The rain continued to taper off, revealing a clearer sky. But just as the heaviness began to lift, a flicker of unease crossed her face. "David, what if I fail? What if everything we've talked about goes wrong? Then we'll face it together," he promised, the conviction in his voice sweeping the last of her doubt away. "No judgment. Only support, every step of the way." She nodded slowly as the air hummed around them, filled with a new energy, hope, tinged with fear, but willing to challenge the darkest parts of their past. For a moment, they just sat there, words unspoken hanging in the air. Then, with thunder rumbling in the distance, David felt a wave of urgency. "We can start tonight. No big guarantees, just honest conversations. What do you say? Will you let me in?" As her amber gaze searched his, it was as if they both knew this was a crossroads, an invitation to heal or an opportunity to sink back into shadows. The answer was still hanging in the air, waiting to unfold. What new depths of their relationship would this choice reveal? The rain had settled into a soft drizzle now, the world around them fresh and fragrant, almost as if it was holding its breath. David watched his sister, her eyes flitting with thoughts he couldn't fully grasp. He felt the weight of her uncertainty, it hung heavier than the humid air surrounding them. I don't know where to start," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. David could see the spark of fear behind her brave facade. "You don't have to start anywhere special. Just talk. Share your feelings. Everything else will fall into place." A moment passed, and then she nodded slightly. "Sometimes it feels like I'm trapped in this shadow, like the pain is a part of me I can't shake. It's suffocating, you know." He opened his mouth to respond but paused. Did he really get it? "I saw Mom's disappointment when I couldn't fix things," she said, biting her lip as if holding back a flood of emotions. "It's like I've been carrying that for so long." "The fear of making everything worse were not our mistakes," David said, his voice steady. "We've both learned from them and we're stronger, right? Are we?" she asked, looking up through the rain-soaked air. "Right now, I still feel broken. What if I mess up again? Then we'll deal with it," he affirmed. "But we have to try first." Her shoulders relaxed just the tiniest bit. "What if I can't find the words?" He smiled gently. "Just say the first thing that comes to mind. Communication has never been our strong suit, but we can change that." "Okay," she breathed out, a hint of courage creeping into her tone. "I'll try." The drizzle quieted down, but the air was still charged, thick with anticipation. As David sat there, he felt an urgency, stirrings of hope merging with a reservoir of fears. "I'll go first," he said. "When I think about us growing up, I remember all the times we argued." She tilted her head. "Yeah, like the time you spilled juice all over my homework." "Exactly." He laughed, the memories a pleasant balm to the heaviness in the atmosphere. "But I also remember those moments after. You'd always forgive me right away, even if I didn't deserve it." Her gaze softened. That's what family is for, asn't it? I guess I thought we'd always be that way. But life is complicated now, David interrupted gently. We evolved in ways we couldn't control. We're all a little broken, but together we can heal. As his words washed over them, he could tell she was letting her guard down. I miss being carefree, she sighed. Like when we'd build those silly blanket forts and act like we were pirates. Everything seemed easier. And we didn't worry about being perfect, David added. We just lived. What if we try to reclaim that? Her eyes brightened, flickering with memories of childhood adventures. Reclaiming it, that sounds beautiful, she admitted, her voice catching. Then let us start small. Could we plan something simple, maybe just us? Like a picnic? She suggested, a hint of excitement lacing her tone. Or apart from those, he added, grinning. Think of something totally random. A trip to the old arcade? Something fun to remind us of those carefree days. Yes. Her voice grew stronger, more assured. I'd love that. A genuine smile blossomed on her face, and David knew they had crossed an invisible line beginning to break down the walls that had kept them apart for so long. Then it's a plan, he said enthusiastically. I'm proud of you for taking this step. And just like that, shadows of hopelessness began to lift, revealing the simmering promise of healing. But the conversation had opened something deeper. David, she said, her voice trembling once more. What if I run out of courage before we're done? What if I can't follow through? Well, he hesitated, his heart heavy. Then I'll be right beside you, every step of the way. Her eyes shimmered with tears, this time the tears of possibility. But even as she nodded, an unvoiced tension remained in the air, unperceived fears of the past threatening to resurface. Would the small steps lead to lasting change? As the fragile connections were formed, a gentle breeze drifted through, a reminder of what could be yet remained unspoken. Would this promise of a new beginning survive, or was it destined to fall apart in the turbulent winds of their history? The air felt lighter, almost palpable, as David and his sister lingered in silence, a newfound energy swirling between them. The rain had dwindled to barely more than a whisper, and the clouds seemed to part just enough for rays of sunlight to break through, bathing the world around them in a gentle glow. Yet, in that fragile atmosphere, a tremor of fear danced beneath their careful conversation, fear of disappointment, of falling back into bad habits, of losing this moment that felt so precious. David felt a swell of warmth in his chest, seeing the hint of hope in his sister's eyes. Hey, he said gently, tilting his head slightly to catch her gaze. You know what really matters? Progress, not perfection. We don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just taking that first step counts. She drew in a shaky breath. You're right. It just feels like everything is permanent, you know. What if we do this, and I still don't find a way through? He leaned closer, instinctively reaching out to take her hand. Then we'll figure it out together. Remember that time we got lost trying to find Grandma's house? We had no idea where we were going, but we made it because we didn't stop trying. A flicker of amusement broke through her tension. And we ended up in that weird diner with the wobbly tables. Exactly. The food was terrible, but we laughed so hard, I thought I'd choke on my fries. His laughter rang out, filling the space around them like the sound of rain against pavement. She chuckled, the warmth of memories flooding back. I think we even named the waitress Annie, right? Annie the Amazing. Maybe we should start bringing that spirit back, he proposed. No matter the outcome, let us chase the joy again. Then a poignant thought struck him. What if we invite others along to share this journey? Remember what Mom used to say about gathering everyone for a weekend cookout? The warmth of family and friends can help us heal. Her face brightened. That sounds wonderful. Everyone around, cooking together, laughing, it gives me butterflies. Right? We could share stories and create new, happy ones, David said, feeling excitement bubble up. And we could ask for help when we need it. Like an open invitation for everyone to share their burdens. She asked softly, her voice gaining strength. Exactly. It's like lifting the weight on each other's shoulders. No one should carry their shadows alone. As they sat under the remnants of rain and clouds, the sunlight touched their freckled skin, wrapping them in a warm embrace. For the first time in a long while, they took a collective breath, feeling lighter. But what if it doesn't go as planned? She said, biting her lip once more, doubt creeping back into her voice. That's okay, he reassured her. Life is messy. But what matters is showing up, leaning into the experience. That's how we grow. She took a deep breath, a glimmer of determination shining in her eyes. I want to try, and not just for us. For Mom, too. I think she needs it. David squeezed her hand. Then let us commit to creating those memories. We'll find our way through the shadows together. Starting with that picnic or arcade trip, right? She nodded fiercely, her earlier hesitations beginning to dissipate. Yet, something in her expression still held back. And the fear, will it ever really go away? It may fade, or it may linger, he replied carefully, but we'll learn to live with it. It won't define us anymore. As they sat in the warmth of the sun and the echo of laughter surrounding their shared memories, David felt a stirring within him. He believed a change was coming, but an unshakable question lingered in the atmosphere. Would they be able to hold on to this newfound hope when old ghosts came knocking again? At that moment, an unexpected noise broke through their bubble, a loud crash in the distance. It drew their attention away and into the unfamiliar. David's heart raced, curiosity and caution blending in a sudden twist. What was that? Whatever it was, something told him this was just the beginning of their journey to reclaim joy, and not everything would be as simple as it seemed. David's heart thudded in his chest as he and his sister exchanged glances, both silently questioning what could have caused that jarring sound. The laughter and lightness that had enveloped them moments ago seemed to dissipate like fog before the sun. Should we check it out? He asked, hesitating just a beat too long. I don't know, she answered, a slight tremor in her voice. What if it's something dangerous? He knew that fear could grip them both if they let it. But something deeper stirred within him, a desire to not only face their fears, but to confront the unexpected. We've faced a lot together, and this might be another step toward rebuilding things. Let's go see. With that, they moved cautiously toward the sound, weaving through the damp grass glistening with leftover raindrops. As they approached the source, their senses heightened. Every rustle of leaves felt amplified, and the anticipation of what lay ahead thrummed in their veins. The crash had come from just beyond the tree line, where a small clearing opened up. As they stepped into the sunlight, they saw a clownish, oversized trunk of a tree, its limbs sprawled scattered and broken, the remains of a family of squirrels darting in panic. But lying among the shattered branches was something far more appealing, a colorful, tattered kite, caught in the wreckage. Emily pointed, eyes wide with delight. Oh, look! That's not just any kite. It used to be mine. She rushed forward, kneeling beside the remnants. Really? David asked, his voice lightening. Wow, I remember that. You were so proud when you flew it that first time. It was the best day, she said, her voice softening as nostalgia washed over her. For a moment, it seemed like they were adrift, their worries melting away into previous summers filled with laughter and wind. Do you think we can fix it? David asked, eager to reignite that spark of joy. Let us try. They began pulling the wrecked material apart, laughing at the memories the kite embodied. With each tug and gentle tweak, Emily's eyes sparkled a bit more. The tree limbs became a backdrop for a renewed energy, and hope seemed to swell again, but just then, a firm voice disrupted the moment. What are you kids doing by my tree? They spun around, startled to see an older man with deep lines etched into his sun-kissed skin, his arms crossed firmly over his chest. David felt the tension in the air thicken. We found this kite, David explained, cautiously eyeing the man's demeanor. Found it? You mean you stole it? The man barked, his gaze sharp. No, wait. Emily stepped forward, determination coursing through her. It's mine. I loved this kite. We didn't mean to intrude. We were just hoping to fix it. The man's expression softened for a fraction of a second, surprise flickering across his features. You want to fix it? Yeah. It means a lot to me, she admitted, sincerity radiating from her. A silence stretched between them, thick like fog, as the man's stance relaxed just a little. Maybe you can help me too, then this tree it's seen better days. David held his breath, glancing at his sister. Was this how they were meant to reconnect with others? A simple act of understanding and sharing burdens amidst their own. Well, we could work together, David suggested, eyes darting between them. One tree and one kite. It could be a neat project. And just like that, a small thread of connection emerged, a possibility forming in the midst of everything they had feared would hold them back. The weight of new fear mingled with hope. All right, the man said, his voice quieter now, subtle cracks of warmth piercing his stern expression. As they all stepped closer to the tree, an undercurrent of unspoken questions hung in the air. Each heartbeat echoed the thrill of possibility, weaving deeper connections not just around them, but within themselves. But just as they began discussions, a loud siren broke through the tranquility, screeching in the distance. David felt a chill run down his spine, the fragile thread of connection suddenly feeling threatening again. What was that? He wondered aloud, a hint of worry creeping back in. Uncertainty washed over him. What would come next? The answer felt just beyond their reach, lurking in the shadows, waiting to reveal the next chapter of their journey. David's skin prickled as the siren's wail wrapped around them like a warning. The clearing, now vibrant with the colors of their small connection, felt oddly suffocating as anxiety crept back into the air. The man's face shifted slightly, his arms dropping to his sides, and for a moment, time slowed as if everyone was caught in the same breathless pause. What was that? Emily whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. The man eyed the tree line, his brow furrowing deeper. Probably just an ambulance. There's a neighborhood nearby. But, he hesitated, looking from the siblings to the kite, maybe something's gone wrong. David sensed the weight of unspoken fears hanging in the air. Whatever the siren signaled, it threatened to pull them away from this fleeting moment of connection. I didn't think we'd ever find you here, a woman's voice broke through the thick tension. She stepped into the clearing, her expression a mix of relief and urgency as she rushed towards the man. Bill. I was searching everywhere for you. She glanced at David and Emily quickly, bewildered. Who are they? Just kids, Bill said, waving a hand dismissively. We were just working on the tree. Emily instinctively stepped back, clutching the torn kite close to her chest, sensing the disruption. Working on the tree? The woman's brow lifted, incredulity flickering in her features. Now. With everything happening? David's heart raced further, the palpable sense of dread hovered thickly over them. What's happening? He asked, his voice steady despite the rising panic. It's about the storm damage, the woman explained. Some folks in the neighborhood were injured. The sirens are going to help. People need to look out for each other right now. Bill nodded, his expression hardening. And that includes you kids. You shouldn't be here alone. An unexpected surge of anger bubbled up in David. We're not just kids. We were trying to fix something that matters. He shot back, feeling a protective instinct rise for both his sister and the connection they had almost made. The woman's eyes softened a fraction. I get it, really. But, there's a lot to be done here, and safety comes first. Well, we can help. Emily exclaimed, her voice ringing with newfound courage. David shot her a surprised look. He could feel the warmth of her determination, a stark contrast to the shadows creeping back around them. Bill considered her words, his stern expression wavering. "What can you do, exactly? You have to follow directions." "Just tell us what to do," David said firmly, stepping closer. "We can't just stand here and do nothing." The woman shared a quick glance with Bill, and he finally conceded, "All right. But stay close and follow my lead." As they moved toward the street, David's heart raced less with fear and more with the surge of purpose. The connection he had felt moments before morphed into something stronger, an instinct to jump into action for those in need, to rebuild and contribute rather than retreat. Suddenly, another siren blared in the distance, but instead of panic, a shared sense of duty pulsed between them. "Come on!" Bill shouted. "Let us go help." The three of them picked up speed, along with a handful of other neighbors who had appeared, messy hair and determined expressions. David glanced back at Emily as they ran, her eyes alight with excitement and challenge, a spark of joy even amid chaos, but then, something caught David's eye. There, in the bushes bordering the street, a flash of color glinted like a jewel, a small, forgotten trinket, resembling nothing more than a broken piece of glass. He hesitated, torn between the pursuit before him and the curiosity of the object. "David!" Emily called back, the urgency in her voice snapping him from his reverie, "We need to go." But just as he turned to join them, he felt the pull of the unknown, the object, the broken glass, and all that it could imply. What was it about that piece of glass that felt so significant? Why did it pull at him so strongly when everything else was calling for action? He stepped closer, bolder now, compelled by an unseen force. As he reached for it, a shadow flitted across his mind. What secrets could it hold? Would this moment lead them somewhere unexpected? In that heartbeat, a decision loomed before him, teetering on the brink of their fractured journey, echoing with the promise of transformation. David's fingers brushed against the broken glass, feeling the jagged edges against his skin. It should have felt dangerous, but instead, there was a strange comfort in it, like discovering a piece of himself he thought was lost forever. He picked it up, turning it over in his hand, catching glimpses of colors, blues and greens that sparkled in the sunlight. It was a reminder that beauty often lay within the fractured moments of life. But as he stood there, a firm voice pulled him back into the present. "David! We need you." Emily's urgency broke through the stillness, her eyes wide with concern and determination. The thrill of discovery faded away, overshadowed by the chaos unfolding on the street. That he tucked the shard into his pocket, a small treasure that might be a reminder of their ability to rebuild, because that was what they were doing, was it? Not just fixing a tree or a kite, but something deeper. Their bond, once fractured, was rekindling with each step they took forward. Rushing back to his sister, David grabbed her hand, his heart bruised and swelling with emotion as they joined Bill and the woman in the street. The path ahead was littered with debris from the earlier storm, fallen branches, and a few damaged fences. Neighbors were banding together, forming small groups, gathering supplies and assessing damage. It felt odd yet uplifting. There was an electricity in the air, a feeling of unity and purpose that they hadn't felt in such a long time. "Okay, folks. We need volunteers to help with the injured and check in on the elderly next door," the woman shouted, her voice rising above the clamor. Without hesitation, Emily squeezed David's hand. "Let us help," she said, her eyes determined. David nodded, a surge of warmth spilling through him. They rushed off together, ready to lend a hand. As they moved from house to house, picking up heavy things that had fallen in yards, checking on neighbors, each interaction ignited something within them. "I can't believe you guys are standing out here, helping," one elderly neighbor told them, eyes shimmering with gratitude. "You remind me of all the times we worked together. It used to be like this all the time." David knew then they were not just repairing physical things, they were reigniting the heartbeat of community. Each smile, each shared gratitude, wove their connection tighter and tighter. Hours passed in a whirl of action and laughter amidst the work. Suddenly, he looked over at Emily, who was chatting animatedly with a woman about baking cookies for the neighborhood. A sense of pride swelled within him. This wasn't just about recovery from a storm, it was about learning, growing, and healing together. As dusk began to settle, David turned back to the first house they visited. He remembered the image of an older woman peering out from behind a half-open door, fear gripping her face as the storm raged, but now he could see her, standing tall in the doorway with neighbors lacing arms around her. "We're in this together. You all are like family to me," she said, tears glistening. That statement swept over him, filling his heart with warmth and resolve that nearly brought tears to his eyes. Returning to their gathering spot, Emily caught up with him, breathless and radiant. "Did you see that?" she asked, her smile bright. "Everyone is coming together. It feels amazing." But then, something flickered in her eyes, doubt creeping back in. What if it doesn't last? Tonight, the warmth feels like magic, but what happens tomorrow? David's heart sank, but he took a deep breath, pouring out his determination. "It will last as long as we keep choosing to show up for each other. This is just the beginning. Just like with us, we can decide to protect what we've built so far." Suddenly, the woman they had seen earlier approached them, still an echo of gratitude in her eyes. "You really made a difference today," she said, clutching a small package. "Please, this is for you too. Just a little thank you. My husband bakes, and we want you to know you're part of this community." As she handed over a box of homemade cookies, David felt a swell of warmth. It was not just the cookies or acknowledgement, it was the realization that they were now woven into this tapestry of life. This community was strong, fragile, and beautiful all at once, just like the shards in his pocket. Later that night, after dinner and laughter filled their home, David sat on the porch with Emily. The stars twinkled above, and the soothing sound of their neighborhood echoed through the quiet evening air. It felt like everything was shifting, aligning perfectly. With a hand on her shoulder, David, without hesitation, pulled the broken shard of glass from his pocket and held it out to Emily. "This," he said, his voice steady, "is a reminder. Just like us, we can break, lose our way, but we can also shine in unique ways. We missed a lot over the years, but now we're together again. We're finding our beauty even within those broken pieces." Her eyes softened, and she took the shard within her palms as if cradling a precious gem. "Thank you for believing," she whispered, tears glistening in their depths, but this time, they were tears of hope rather than sorrow. As the night wore on, David felt an undeniable shift in the air. They were different now, having faced the storm and found their way through together. Barriers were slowly lifting, and even the future felt brighter, beckoning with endless possibilities. "Let us promise to keep moving forward," David said earnestly. "Not just with our family but with everyone we've met today." "Agreed," Emily smiled, her warmth wrapping around them like a blanket of comfort as the stars sparkled above, whispering stories of new beginnings. In the end, it was more than just a day of healing, it was a declaration, one filled with courage, love, and a commitment to nurturing both their family and their community. This was their moment. And it was only the beginning. If you believe in the power of transformation, you need to subscribe now. The next chapter of inspiring stories is just around the corner, and you won't want to miss it. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Your thoughts matter. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to join the movement.